Hello and welcome to this introduction to ICD-10 PCS. ICD-10 PCS codes are 7-character alphanumeric codes that are used for inpatient coding at hospitals. They're used to code procedures and services performed for patients. These codes have no impact on CPT or HCPCS codes. These codes are used for communication for delivery of healthcare, research, tracking public health, reimbursement, or policy creation. So let's talk about the code format for PCS codes. They are 7 characters long. They do not contain a decimal point. ICD-10 diagnosis codes do not affect PCS codes. ICD-10 PCS codes can be accessed online through the CMS website, cms.gov. These 7 characters, each one stands for a different thing. So the first character always represents which section of the book we're coming from. The second character represents which body system it's about. The third character represents what root operation was done. The fourth character represents what specific body part was operated on. The fifth character represents the approach, which is what type of incision they use. The sixth character is a device. So a device is going to be something that is non-biologic, that is left behind in a person's body. An example of a device will be something like a pacemaker. And the seventh character is a qualifier. So a qualifier is basically a free card. So this can stand for anything that may have to do with what type of procedure was done. So the first character of any ICD-10 PCS code represents the section of the book that you're coming from. So these can be several different things. I have them all listed here. We'll go through them. So the section identifier 0 stands for medical and surgical. The section identifier number 1 represents obstetrics. The section identifier number 2 represents placement. The section identifier number 3 represents administration. The section identifier number 4 represents measuring and monitoring. Number 5 is extracorporeal assistance and performance. Number 6 is extracorporeal therapies. Number 7 is anything osteopathic. Number 8 is listed as other procedures. Number 9 is chiropractic. The letter B is the section identifier for imaging. The letter C represents nuclear medicine. The letter D represents radiation oncology. The letter F represents physical rehabilitation and diagnostic audiology. The letter G represents mental health. H is substance abuse treatment. And X is used to represent any new technology. The second character in ICD-10 PCS code represents the different body systems. So these characters are as follows. 0 is central nervous system and cranial nerves. 1 is peripheral nervous system. 2 is the heart and great vessels. 3 is upper arteries. 4 is lower arteries. 5 is upper veins. 6 is lower veins. 7 is lymphatic and hemic systems. 8 represents the eye. 9 is the ear, nose, and sinus. The letter B represents respiratory system. C is the mouth and throat. D is the gastrointestinal system. F is the hepatobiliary system and pancreas. G is the endocrine system. H is skin and breast. J is subcutaneous tissue and fascia. K is muscles. L is tendons. M is bursae and ligaments. N is head and facial bones. P is upper bones. Q is lower bones. R is upper joints. S is lower joints. T is the urinary system. U is the female reproductive system. V represents the male reproductive system. W are anatomical regions, general anatomical regions. X are anatomical regions of the upper extremities, and Y is anatomical regions of the lower extremities. So next, the third character is root operations. There are many root operations, and it's very important that we know the definitions of them so that we're able to distinguish between them. Because when you look up ICD-10 PCS codes, you look them up by root operations. So for these, I have included the definition. We'll go through these now. 0 is alteration, which is modifying the anatomic structure of a body part without affecting the function of the body part. 1 is bypass, which is altering the route of passage of the contents of a tubular body part. 2 is change, which is taking out or off a device from a body part and putting back in an identical or similar device in or on the same body part without cutting or puncturing the skin or a mucous membrane. Control is stopping or attempting to stop post-procedural bleeding. 4 is creation, making a new genital structure that does not take over the function of a body part. 5 is destruction, which is physical eradication of all or a portion of a body part by the direct use of energy, force, or a destructive agent. 6 is detachment, which is cutting off all or a portion of the upper or lower extremities. 7 is dilation, expanding an orifice or the lumen of a tubular body part. 8 is division, which is cutting into a body part without draining fluids and or gases from the body part in order to separate or transect the body part. 9 is drainage, which is taking off or letting out fluids and or gases from a body part. The letter B stands for excision, cutting out or off without replacement a portion of a body part. The letter C stands for extirpation, which is taking or cutting out solid matter from a body part. The letter D is extraction, which is pulling or stripping out or off all or a portion of a body part by the use of force. Fragmentation is breaking solid matter in a body part into pieces. Fusion is joining together portions of an articular body part, rendering the articular body part immobile. H is insertion, putting in a non-biological appliance that monitors, assists, performs, or prevents a physiological function, but does not physically take the place of another body part. J is inspection, which is visually and or manually exploring a body part. K is map, locating the route of passage of electrical impulses and or locating functional areas in a body part. L is occlusion, which is completely closing off an orifice or the lumen of a tubular body part. M stands for reattachment, which is putting back in or on all or a portion of a separated body part to its normal location or other suitable location. The character N stands for release, freeing a body part from abnormal physical constraint by cutting or by the use of force. P stands for removal, taking out or off a device from a body part. Q stands for repair, restoring to the extent possible a body part to its normal anatomic structure and function. R stands for replacement, which is putting in or on biological or synthetic material that physically takes the place and or function of all or a portion of a body part. S is reposition, which is moving to its normal location or other suitable location, all or portion of a body part. T is resection, cutting out or off without replacement, all of a body part. V is restriction, partially closing an orifice or the lumen of a tubular body part. W is revision, correcting to the extent possible a portion of a malfunctioning device or the position of a displaced device. U is supplement, putting on biological or synthetic material that reinforces and or augments the function of a body part. X is transfer, which is moving without taking out or all or a portion of a body part to another location to take over the function of all or a portion of body part. Transplantation is represented with the letter Y, and that means putting in or on all or a portion of a living body part taken from another individual or animal to physically take the place and or function of all or a portion of a similar body part. So when you're putting together a PCS code, the first thing you're going to do is look up the root operation in the index. The next thing you're going to do is refer to the first three characters in the tables. These will be the characters that you get from looking up the root operation and body part in the index. The third step is to complete the code in the appropriate row of the table. It's very important that you stay in the same row once you're in the row. We'll talk about that a little bit more. So in order to use the PCS tables, you're going to locate the root operation in the index. Next, you're going to use the subterms to find the appropriate body system or body part in the first three characters of the appropriate code. The third step is going to be to find the table that's associated with the first three characters of the code. A hint here is that the tables are listed in alphabetical order. Next, you're going to locate the appropriate body part for the fourth character. Once you find the appropriate body part, you need to code from the row with that same row within the table. If you use the codes that are listed in other rows, it will result in you having an incorrect code. The last step is to select the appropriate 5th, 6th, and 7th character by selecting the appropriate approach, device, and qualifier respectively. So now let's try coding a sample scenario. A 49-year-old female was diagnosed with lobular breast cancer. She opted for the bilateral mastectomy and deep flap reconstruction. So how are we going to code her visit to the hospital? First of all, we need to code her operation, which are the bilateral mastectomy and the deep flap reconstruction. These are two separate operations, so we need two separate codes. Okay, so to code bilateral mastectomy, we're going to look up the term mastectomy in the index. When we get to the term mastectomy, we are going to see a couple of notes here. The first note is C, excision, skin and breast, 0 HB. The second note says C, resection, skin and breast, 0 HT. This is telling me that the mastectomy can be listed either as an excision or a resection for the root operation. So we need to figure out which one it is. This woman had a complete mastectomy. So that means she had a total removal of the breast. Since this is a total removal and not a partial removal, we will opt for resection rather than excision. So the next step will be to find 0HT in the tables. Once I get to the table 0HT, I'm going to go down the column for body part and find that V stands for breast, bilateral. Then I'm going to code from within that same row. I cannot jump around to come up with my code. So the next thing is the approach, and I'm going to code 0 for open. No device, so that's going to be a Z, and no qualifier, so that is also going to be a Z. Anytime there's no or none, it's going to be Z, the character Z, because Z is the placeholder. Just like X is the placeholder in ICD-10-CM, Z is the placeholder for the codes in ICD-10-PCS. So, when we put all of these characters together, we come up with the code 0HTB0ZZ. This means resection of breast, bilateral, open approach. Now, to code her reconstruction, we're going to look up the term reconstruction in the index. There are 3 notes here that say C, repair, replacement, or supplement. When I'm choosing for this one, I look at the definitions of repair, replacement, and supplement. And her breast reconstruction involves replacing the original breast tissue with a flap removed from her abdomen. So for that reason, we're going to select replacement. So I go in the index, we're going to go to replacement, breast, and bilateral. This is going to give us the first 4 characters, which is 0HRV. When you go to the tables are listed only by the first 3 characters. So we're going to go to the table that's listed as 0HR. We already know that we're going to use the letter B for our 4th character to represent the bilateral breast. And then we're going to continue down that same row, and we're going to code 0 for open for the 5th character, 7 for the 6th character, which is autologous tissue substitute, and 7 for deep inferior epigastric artery perforator flap. I know that this is the correct code because of the way that her deep flap reconstruction is spelled, DIEP. That tells me that that is an anagram for deep inferior epigastric artery perforator flap. When I put all of these letters together, I'm sorry, not letters, characters. When I put all of them together to come up with the code, we're going to get 0HRV077. This stands for replacement of bilateral breast using deep inferior epigastric artery perforator flap, open approach. Thank you so much for watching. This has been an introduction to ICD-10 PCS codes.
Let's get a recording though. Is it on the first slide? Where the fuck is my screen recording? Swear to God it didn't record. Man, I know you lying to me. I just sat here and watched that whole thing for nothing? Man, y'all got to be kidding me. For what?